We're in the midst of a huge transformation where our peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, and I'm a partnerships manager here at AllVoices, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Today, I'm excited to welcome our next guest on the show, Lauren Gomez. She is the VP of Human Resources at Spanish Latam Experian. Hey, Lauren, how's it going?
Hi, Christine. Thanks for inviting me. So happy to be here in AllVoices.
Yeah, of course. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, including your pronouns and what has recently brought you joy. This could be literally anything.
Thank you. Yes, I'm so happy to hear, as you mentioned it. I'm Lauren Gomez. A little bit from myself. I am from Colombia. Happy and absolutely happy to be here. First Colombian in your show. So yes, I am from a city in the north, that is Barranquilla. I come from a family with my single mom. I don't have brothers, so she is my family. And I have my husband and I have a son. He's 9 years old. His name is Luis. I'm so happy mother and wife.
Amazing. And how do you think that your kind of journey led up to this point of becoming a VP of Human Resources at Experian Spanish Latam?
Okay, it's important. Okay, I want to share a little bit more about me and how do I get to this position. And for me, it's absolutely key to talk about the environment and the way that you grow up and the way that you learn to face your life. As I mentioned before, I live with my mom. I used to live with my mom in Barranquilla. She is a doctor and she taught me how to have a real interest about take care of people, how to do something for others more than yourself. And that is the passion of my life. So in some moment, everybody thought that maybe I could be a doctor, but I'm not. I decided to work and dedicate to human resources. That is why I choose my career, is because I studied business administration, but I have a degree in human resources because I found a way to help people, but working with business, because at the same time, I had like that mix of feelings about not only to work with people, is also about to be corporate. And so human resources gave me that opportunity. And I started my career also like almost 15 years ago. I started my career in human resources as generalist. I started my career in retail, pharmaceutical company and telecommunication company, always been responsible from the end to end of the process, obviously with different levels of responsibilities or scope. So I started in Colombia, being responsible for a city and then for a regional position in a retail company. That is the key point, deal breaker in my career, because I had the opportunity to be responsible for more than 3,000 people in different roles. Yes, in my first, and also responsible for unions, for all the process. But at the same time, being in the floor, as I say, in the floor with people, and not only to be in a desk, is like to walk and to be in the real life with people, with business, and to understand what they need from us as human resources. So that is why I say that is a deal breaker that is being with me. And then I started to change the role, not only being responsible for a city or a region for Colombia. And then when I jumped to MasterCard, I was working in MasterCard before Experian. I was responsible, or I had my first responsibility, being responsible for more countries, not only in Colombia, so from Latin America. So that is my path, and that is how I get here.
Yeah, I mean, you have a breadth of experience in the industry, and you're in the business of people, really. What do you value most in your coworkers and the team that you're on?
Absolutely three things: transparency, loyalty, and coherency. You know, those are the pillars for me, my life, and through my career. I a strong believer that with transparency and with loyalty, not only in your team, also loyalty about yourself, and coherency. Coherency, why? Because I think that you need to be congruent between what you think and your values and what do you do. And at the same time, as HR, you need to be the first area that you need to demonstrate to others how you are, or how are the values of your company. Because as human resources, you cannot say to other areas, okay, here is the culture, you need to be like that, these are the skills, this is to be high performance, and not being yourself. No, the first way to demonstrate or to change or to work for the culture or for a company is leading with the example. So that is why the coherency for me is absolutely key.
Absolutely. Leading by example and really modeling that behavior from leadership and team members is so important. And I think you can use those three kind of adjectives to describe company culture as well. Over the past year with the pandemic and all of the world changes that are happening, how have you seen the company culture shift over time?
Oh, a lot, you know. I think that this is the same answer for everybody. Obviously, this changed our life, but at the same time, this has been a proof about, I was talking with someone, I mean, this is the same pandemic situation around the world. Right. It can be the same situation, but you can live differently from others. Because, for example, we are in Latin America, and we need to understand that we have maybe in different countries, we are facing or we are in a different level about how to live this situation, like vaccination plan, quarantines, isolation. I mean, first, to support your business is to understand your reality and how your countries are really facing with the situation. So for us, it's not been easy, obviously, but how the culture has changed is about more global mindset, about to understand that you now the productivity with your team, the way that you need to manage the productivity is not face to face, is not okay. How many times have you been sit here, or at what time did you start, at what time during the office hours? Is more about that, how to manage the productivity, how to be engaged, and how to keep engaged your team with transparency and quick communication. I mean, because you are not face to face, and obviously the social connection, that is really important. And our culture has changed about, okay, I need to be available, but it doesn't mean that I need to be working 24/7. It's allowed to teach them, not only if you are a leader or in any role that you have, is how to keep engaged, productivity, don't lose the focus, but being connected only in a good balance between your life and the work.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want folks that are working 24/7 around the clock, especially if they're working from home. It leads to burnout as well. But I hear you say too, rethinking employee engagement, and that's one of the challenges for HR strategies in 2021 and beyond. Do you see any other kind of challenges that HR, but also people teams are going to face over the next year and years to come? I was talking to someone else and they were just like, HR is over this past year where everyone is looking for solutions and looking for us to fix literally everything. So definitely wanted to ask your opinion.
It's true. 24/7, we are here to solve all the problems around the world. Yes, they look for solutions. But to be honest, our challenges is that the new reality is here. I mean, 6 months ago, we were talking about how will be the new reality. Now it is happening. I mean, we know that is a change. We have new challenges. Now the challenge is how to embrace new people if you are not seeing the person. For example, new hires, how to explain your culture to a new hire if they are virtual from day one, for example. That is a good point. Now, how to manage hybrid teams in terms, I mean, before just we say, okay, what will be hybrid? Now that we know that we will be having a hybrid teams, is like how to manage those teams. Why? Because we are facing, or we can have a risk about thinking that we are complementing teams with different flexibility options, but if you don't manage really well that, you can create more gaps. Why? Because it will be, for example, Christine you decide to go to the office on Monday, I can decide to go on Tuesday. But for you, Christine, will be easier to create social connection with that person that you will have in person in the office on Monday. And you and me as Lauren, I will disappear from your scope because we will not having any kind of connection. So we need to manage that in how to embrace new people, how to keep our same culture. It doesn't matter the day that you will pick to go to the office or to keep at home. The hybrid is how to keep that engaged. We have a strategy in our region. The name of our culture strategy is one region, 5 countries, one Experian way. Why? Because we are a multi-country region in Spanish Latam. We have presence from Mexico to Chile in 5 different countries. So we are one region. We need to understand the different reality for 5 countries in Latin America, but at the same time, there is one non-negotiable value, is Experian way, is the way that you do things. It doesn't matter if you are in Mexico, if you are in Argentina, the culture is the best way to keep engaged people and to be aligned. It doesn't matter where you are, where you live, or when you work.
Absolutely. Do you think that is the same kind of translation to like mergers and acquisitions? And when you think about the process there to ensure that folks really feel like they are included at Experian, no matter like how they enter the company?
Yes, it's absolutely the same. With the M&A, the best way is, and I want to clarify that, of course, in an M&A, you need to really work hard to have a real clear strategy and methodology to diagnose the culture and identify the gaps between the target and your company and to create an action plan according to that. That is one really structured plan. But at the same time, you have a 24/7 opportunity to demonstrate the culture is because you are the culture. You are the person that they have been connected. So the best way is to demonstrate from the first moment with the way you answer, the way you manage a meeting, the way you treat them, the way you answer a phone, the way you answer a call, the way you answer, the communication. I mean, you don't need to start to work in an M&A about culture only when the plan or the structure plan starts. You need to start right now from point zero all the time because you need coherency and they need to know you exactly in the same way that they will treat or to manage the action plan then, because you cannot be different. One, when I was talking with you during the deal or when we were negotiating, and another one after the closing. No, you need to be the same always to demonstrate the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think communication in every sense of the word, whether it's virtual, in-person, nonverbal communication as well, sends so many signals in terms of culture, inclusion, and belonging too. And since we talking about distributed workforces across different countries as well, what do you think about employee listening? I know during our previous conversation, you have a multitude of ways of really capturing employee feedback as well. What is your strategy there?
Yes, we have our pulse survey each quarter. We have that. We have different tools because one is our survey, and it's really key for us. It's really important because we can manage and to know how the engagement is going, how the communication from leaders, if the people have a clear vision about the strategy and what is happening. And during this year, that is. It's really hard to manage a crisis. You need to be proactive about communication. So I think that is in both ways. One is you need to have real listening methodology, formal, and to, okay, this is the survey, this is your HRBP that is close to you to receive your messages, and this is the entire or the whole HR team to support you. But at the same time, you need to be proactive, not only reactive in terms of communications. If you don't need, if you are really close to the people and if you know what they are struggling with or what they are thinking, please don't wait until a quarterly pulse survey to give to them answers. Be proactive. Send news, bulletins, communications, all hands. I mean, it's better if you can be proactive in terms of communication with your employees and not only reactive.
Absolutely. Being proactive is super important because it doesn't, we talk about a lot at AllVoices, just because you're not getting feedback does not mean everything is going super well and everyone's having the best experience. There's always feedback out there and ways to which improve the business and experience for everyone as well. Wanted to shift the conversation a little bit to, what if employees are providing feedback around burnout, and especially right now, like people feel like they're working around the clock. How do you preventatively think about burnout on the team and Experian overall?
Okay, yes, that is important because this is a reality. Exactly. Now we don't have boundaries in terms, okay, this is the office, this is my home. No, now it's the same space. I mean, now you are not working only with Christine or your teammate. You are working with you and with your husband and with your son and with dog and with the baby. Yeah. I mean, yeah. They are part. Finally, they know what I am doing because they didn't understand my role before pandemic. And now they finally know what I am doing all day. So burnout, the best way to manage is to be realistic and to understand that now we are facing this situation, and don't try to think that they don't exist, because it's not realistic. You cannot be only connected thinking that they disappear and they are not with you. No, you as a leader, you need to understand that each person are facing different realities according to you. It's not the same for me. One is that to be clear about what is happening with your team. Second is to be open communication daily, not only during a meeting, because a meeting you can be with a lot of people, and right. That is not the best way to really have to know what is happening. And also trust. I want to include trust, because when your people really knows that you trust them, they can find a way to raise the hand and raise the concerns when they are really close to that burnout. And of course, last but not important is that I think that as a leader, if you are a leader, you need to understand that a lot of time you cannot be only 8 to 5. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, if you are a leader, you need to face that. And if you have an availability for your team, they can feel that they have an open door to be close to you and to raise any kind of concern, to understand that burnout is a personal situation and you cannot think that everybody is facing the same. No, that is why you need to have an open door when someone is facing that situation and to manage that.
Absolutely. And you need to actively build that as well. Trust doesn't happen overnight or, unintentionally too. And I think that's important too, to recognize that the role of managers and leaders has definitely changed over this past year as well, in terms of how vulnerable and empathetic they're leading, and also what the team is sharing too about their work from home situation as well. So I think that's an important point to bring up too. Another question that I had also is around diversity, equity, and inclusion at the company as well, especially in regards to over this past year. How do you think about DEI from your perspective?
I absolutely key. I am absolutely happy because in Experian, I love my company, and it's because diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I feel in a lot of aspects that I am an example of that, because I love Experian, is because I received the opportunity to be in this role. Yeah. It doesn't matter my ancestors or my family or my university, or not only where I was coming from, it's because my potential, my background, and my experience, So for example, in my case, my husband is the primary care in my family. I am responsible for my family since I was 27 years old. And in our culture, maybe it's hard, that to demonstrate that in this position, you can be also an example of diversity and inclusion. And you can be an example about how far you can get if you understand that we are exactly the same, and you need to demonstrate is your capacity and not the restriction that you have everything is a possibility. So we are very close to the diversity and inclusion strategy in Experian. We have a global strategy, but in my role, I prefer to be absolutely conscious about that strategy, but understand our reality in Latin America and to define a strategy that real makes sense for our people. I mean, is understand what are our real challenges with hard data to understand with real example and start to work with them in terms of that. Okay, this is maybe our challenge is in terms to have women, not only the percentage of women is the level that the women have. For example, we are in our region 50-50. We are 50% women, 50% men. Yes, but now that is why an example that is not my goal, not the percentage. Now is the distribution of that percentage. I want to have more in the middle management, for example. So we started to work with them in a sponsorship, going and to be with them during the whole year in mentoring, in coaching, and talking about how to banish any boundary to really have a good distribution in our structure for women. Just to give you an example about how you need to work according with the global strategy, but at the same time, take that strategy to your local responsibility or needs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And speaking of just like hard data and just making insight-driven decisions, how do you come up with kind of measures of success or like key performance indicators around these metrics? I know you mentioned in terms of percentages of leadership and also just retention and middle managers, but are there any other kind of metrics that you point to say, we're doing a good job in this, we need to work on this?
Exactly. And also, you mentioned almost all the KPIs around, for example, women or gender, but also we have KPIs or measures about success. It's about other kind of campaigns that we are doing here in terms of gender, of your oriental sexuality, about being working, or for example, to have a real Pride Month. Just to give you an example in terms of the campaigns that we decide each month, we have a different campaigns to try to work or to banish those boundaries that I mentioned before. So each month we have different measures or different KPIs according to the campaign or the topic that we need to be focused on that moment. I mean, in Pride, okay, how much activities do we have to really talk about it? How many people are really joining our networking group, for example, in terms of diversity and inclusion? We created a networking group, and so all the activities are also thanks to them, and they are not part of HR. So that is the kind of advice that I can give you and to the other HR leaders, is to understand that maybe HR is not the only source of solutions. Yeah. No, the solutions can be also coming from other areas, because this company is from everybody. It's not only for HR.
Yeah, absolutely. And HR can definitely be a resource, but I think culture champions amongst the company happen at every level and every department too. And in order for everyone to feel like they have an impact and have that owner mentality as well, they need to make change. And I think that's a great measure of if people feel empowered to start these initiatives, campaigns, and contribute outside of their role as well. Speaking more generally to your experience and what you've seen in the industry, are there any like common mistakes that you've seen folks make in terms of, you know, their strategy or, you know, what you would like to see happen in the future?
A common mistake, but I know that it's really hard to say that, is that I find a lot of people that say, okay, if you are a leader in HR and your position is only about the strategy, people think that if you have a strategic position, you don't need to understand the transactional part. Why? Because you say like, okay, I am only defining a strategy. Okay, but how can you really define a real strategy that people need if you don't understand the business? If you don't really meet the people, or if you don't really know what people need, or even worse, if you don't really understand your HR processes. Yeah. Until the end, because you can find a lot of HR areas that they have a really good HR strategy, but when you ask employees about the service that they receive from HR, maybe it's not a good service.
Mhm.
So that is something, and so I point out that you need to have focus on details. You need to understand the business, deep knowledge about the business, about what is happening, but not only what is happening outside your area. You need to understand what is happening inside your area and to try to close any gaps, because at the end, employees are our clients, and we need to offer a good service with good quality, with excellence, but being close. And remember that I mentioned authenticity. I truly believe that people really feel if you are close to them because you need to do it because it's a must, or if you are interested on them.
Mhm.
I think that is a different approach. So that is what I'm thinking.
I think that's definitely a different approach. And I would argue maybe different than 20, 30 years ago as well, where people really saw human resources on, behalf of the company and not really the employees. But now I think we're seeing a shift where a lot of people teams and HR teams are really thinking about employees, like you said, as their clients, and really, being on their team and like wanting them to have that really good experience as well, and being authentic. And I was talking with another leader as well, and they were saying how it's so important that everybody needs to be plugged in. You can't be siloed in your own department and not know what's going on in the rest of the business, which definitely makes sense. Looking towards the future of 2021 and beyond, are there any trends that you are seeing in the groups you're a part of, or just in the industry, that people on an individual level or from a company perspective really need to hone in on in order to be successful in the future?
Yes, I think that it's absolutely important to keep working, trying to improve your critical thinking. I think because, for example, our business in Experian is data. So I am, and I absolutely convinced that in the future we can have more processes in terms of analytics and developments, etc., and technology. It's perfect, but something that as human beings, it's absolutely key is to have critical thinking, to have better decisions about to at our level, because a lot of people think that only the critical thinking or the strategic mindset, oh, that day when I will be a leader, only in that moment when I am a leader, I will need that skill. I think that no, that is the difference or the shift that we need to make, because it's to understand that these are a lot of skills that before you were thinking that only the leaders need. No, now you need, it doesn't matter your level. I think, for example, accountability, critical thinking, transparency, empowerment, being accountable. And in terms of leadership, we need a more authentic leadership, because, for example, a few years ago, a long time ago, people seeing their companies like, okay, the vice president of HR so far, like someone there in the Olympus sky or in the stars, something far. And I think that now or in the future, as you mentioned it before, maybe that will be changing. We need to be more close to the people, to the business, to understand the reality, and to be one more with needs, with problems, but with family, and that also we can reach this position with a good balance between our personal life and without sacrifice your values, your family, or something, or your dreams, because we are human beings.
Absolutely. And I think it comes down to one of the points that you brought up earlier as well, in terms of the new way of communicating and speaking with your team, and just really leading as well, and having that open door policy as well, and that accessibility to leadership, decision making, the why behind why we're doing things at a company as well. It's a new expectation that employees are seeing and getting from other companies, and just really they're craving in their workplace too. I know our conversation spanned across the board in terms of what we have talked about, but is there anything that you would like to share with the folks who are listening that we maybe haven't talked about, or just a point you would like to reemphasize as a key takeaway from the conversation?
No, so happy to be here. I think that these are some things or tips or insights that I was sharing, but I think that we are in the same situation. I think that it doesn't matter where you live or the country or your region. We are human beings, and at the end, we have needs. We have dreams. We have life. We want to be happy. We dream to love our job. We need to love our job to be really happy. If so, that is my something else is like to say, please don't forget that. Don't forget that it's possible to really love what you do. Don't sacrifice your values or your dreams. Don't do it. Maybe you can receive a quick reward, but at the end, maybe it's not the best bet if you forget your dreams and to be happy. Absolutely. I think that is important.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece. We spent so much of our time at work as well, and with the people on our team, that it's important that, you know, you actually enjoy the work that you do. Not every part is going to be the most fulfilling, but it comes down to the foundation you talked about around values and just having that conversation as well. Lauren, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Christine. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Of course. And as a reminder for folks who are listening, AllVoices believes in the empowerment of everyone to speak up and think it's a requirement for everyone at the organization to succeed. We'll speak soon.